Kneel before Zod!
You can't go! All the plants are gonna die!
I'm gonna take a bath.
Bad dates.
I'll alert the media.
Boys, keep off the moors.
It's evil! Don't touch it!
The name's Pliskin.
No more hangers!
Welcome to Vintage Video, where we're rewatching the 80s so you don't have to. We'll be reviewing every major film release of the 1980s in chronological order, overanalyzing what you've seen and spoiling what you haven't. I'm Patrick O'Reilly.
I'm Jesse Bayless.
And I'm Richard Wells.
And today we're discussing Under the Rainbow, released July 31st, 1981. It was written by Pat McCormick, Harry Hurwitz, Martin Smith, Pat Bradley, and Fred Bauer, based on a story by Bauer and Bradley, directed by Steve Rash, and released by Warner Brothers. Frank L. Baum's The Wonderful Wizard of Oz was first published in May of 1900 and was quickly adapted into a Broadway musical in 1902, which stripped wonderful from the title. The novel is actually the first in a series of 14 books written after the rousing success of the first novel and musical. The first book was adapted to film several times before the celebrated 1939 version, including a 1925 film with Oliver Hardy as the Tin Man. In 1938, the rights to the novel were purchased by MGM. The sequences involving little person actors playing the Munchkins were saved till the end of production, and each actor was paid $125 a week for their work, the equivalent of $2,420 a week today, for every single one of those people, not just the
decent,
featured ones. Yeah, that's good pay. 100 individual costumes were designed for the little person cast of around 120 to 126 actors who were booked 3 to a bed at the real-life Culver Hotel and instructed to sleep across the width of the mattress to maximize space.
Wow. Well,
because
okay, that's a...
they're not the length of the mattress, so they rotated them 90 degrees.
Oh, okay.
Still terrible because you're sleeping with two strangers in the same bed.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do that to any other actors for this movie. Rumors have swirled since the film's production about the little person actors wreaking havoc at the hotel, and while they may have had a good time, there is little truth to the tales of Munchkins swinging from the lobby's chandeliers as has been widely reported. It's possible these stories stem from the more confirmable tale that 11 dwarf actors were hired to stand above the marquee during the premiere of Disney's Pinocchio and wound up drunk and naked, shouting obscenities at the crowd below.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing.
They were all dressed as Pinocchio, wearing Pinocchio masks, and they were overheating up there. So someone from Disney gave them a little bit of food and a lot of beer to calm them down, and they got wasted. Eventually, the police were called, and supposedly the elusive drunks had to be bagged up in pillowcases to be carried down from the marquee.
Oh, Lord. Oh, my God. But this was for Pinocchio and not Snow White. Why are there 7 Pinocchios?
I don't know. There were 11 Pinocchios.
Oh, 11 Pinocchios.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Maybe because he's 11 years old? I don't know. One of the lead Munchkin actors from the 1939 Wizard of Oz, Jerry Marin, has said in interviews that he had never seen another little person before arriving at the Culver Hotel. The hotel still exists and is now an historic landmark in Culver City, still located directly across the street from Culver City Studios. I've mentioned in the past on the show that I worked on A&E's The Beast with Patrick Swayze, and some of our post-work went through Culver City Studios, so I know this location well, and the exteriors of the studio and the hotel play themselves in the film. The hotel was built by Harry Culver, who also founded the city, but was later purchased by Charlie Chaplin, who, according to legend, lost it in a poker game to John Wayne, who kept it for a while before donating it to the YMCA. Over the years of its operation, Buster Keaton, Clark Gable, and Greta Garbo were all said to keep apartments in the building. And by the way, Mr. Culver still operated the hotel during the time that this film is set to take place. So the manager and the assistant manager are working directly for Mr. Culver. The hotel has since been restored to its former glory and played host to a reunion of 7 surviving Munchkin actors in 1997. After the success of their earlier film, The Buddy Holly Story, producer Ed Cohen, writer-producer Fred Bauer, and director Steve Rash struck a 3-picture deal with Orion, starting with a starring role for Chevy Chase, fresh off his appearance in Orion's Caddyshack. The story came from producer Bauer and was developed by writer Pat Bradley, but Orion hired Pat McCormick, Harry Hurwitz, and Martin Smith to compose the script. It has been reported that Chevy Chase was struggling with the sudden death of his best friend, Caddyshack writer Douglas Kenney, and was nearly replaced with Airplane's Robert Hayes, but Chase has denied that it affected his work. Carrie Fisher reportedly collapsed on set and was hospitalized due to flu and exhaustion, which is popular Hollywood speak for drugs. An actor strike and complete lack of acting experience on the part of most of the cast caused several production delays. The final product was nominated for 2 Razzies for Worst Score and Supporting Actor for Billy Barty, and the title landed in Rolling Stone's Big Bucks, Big Losers article after turning $20 million of budget into $18 million in box office, which doesn't seem like a big loser to me.
Yeah.
But
also, to single out Billy Barty in this...
He's pretty bad in it, though, and he's good in other things.
Yeah, I know, but it's just like, everyone's bad in this.
I think his performance stands out because he's clearly annoyed at being there. And he's supposed to be speaking in a German accent. And that's not fair. Because no one else is speaking in an accent that they don't have to use in this movie.
Or that they don't already have.
Yeah. We open on a dirt road on a foggy morning. A truck rattles down the road to a dilapidated encampment. There's a ratty old building and a bunch of tents out front, and it's bustling with people. Based on the cars and the outfits, it looks like we're in the 30s. Also based on my knowledge of when The Wizard of Oz was made. Oh, and also based on a title that just showed up that says it's 1938. A little person wakes up in a tent out front and heads into the U.S. Post Office to ask if he's gotten a letter from Hollywood.
Face it, little fella. Your dreams are just too big.
Well, let me tell you something, Delbert, and I want you to remember where you heard it. There's no dream too big, and no dreamer too small.
Well, at this point, I was wondering why they were taking such great lengths to avoid showing the face of the guy who's talking to behind the counter.
Yeah. I also wonder why this beginning isn't in sepia tone.
Yeah.
And the ending isn't in sepia tone.
Oh, God, yeah.
Wouldn't that have been...
It does look desaturated.
It's browner, but it's not full sepia tone.
It's not. I feel like they just did it slightly wrong. Like, I actually think the intent was there because it's not the same coloring as the rest of the film.
I think Orion was scared to do it in sepia tone because they thought people would leave immediately if the whole movie wasn't going to be in color, and they didn't know.
Okay.
There's a radio positioned in the center of the room, and it's broadcasting an address from President FDR. Just as the speech gets going, the signal fades out, and Rollo, the little person from the tent, offers to check it out. He climbs a pile of junk leaned against the outside of the building to reach the roof. A sign has blown down and snagged the aerial on its way. Just as Rollo is getting it connected, a car pulls into the lot, and the driver is waving a hat out the window and shouting. Rollo is distracted enough to fall off the roof and tumble down onto the pile of junk. Inside, the president's address resumes, because he actually got the wire connected.
Right.
Because he's literally just hooking it onto the tin roof of the building.
Mm-hmm. Which is smart.
Yeah. They're using the whole roof as an antenna. We cut to Nazi headquarters, and specifically the desk of Adolf Hitler himself with a giant swastika flag behind him. He, too, is listening to the president's address. He's visited by a pair of officers and a dwarf agent named Otto wearing a Hitler mustache and a monocle. He's played by Billy Barty. He tells Hitler that Japan wants a map of the American defenses, and he will be meeting with a Japanese agent to hand it over soon, somewhere in California. Otto asks Hitler how he will know the agent when he sees him, and Hitler tells him the passphrase.
The pearl is in the river.
The pearl is in the river.
Isn't a passphrase typically something that a person might say but is unlikely to? It wouldn't just be a random phrase like this.
Well, it's also usually accompanied by a follow-up phrase.
Right, yeah.
I also wonder why this exchange would happen in California when he is currently in Germany and the person he is exchanging with is a Japanese spy. And I'm like, feels like...
He can come here, we can go there.
Yeah, there'd be a closer place in between you two that would make more sense rather than going all the way to California.
Oceans. Yeah.
Yeah. Rather than flying to a country that is not at this point not hostile, but in contention.
Right.
Like because we'll learn later that the Japanese spy was at least already somewhere in Asia.
Right, yeah.
Pretty recently. So yeah, I guess I guess we could assume that the spy is operating in California.
Yeah.
You will look for a Japanese man in a white suit.
How will he know me?
He will look for a man your size.
Otto is checking his pockets for something as Hitler approaches him. When another officer shouts Heil Hitler, Otto swings his arm up to salute and smashes Hitler's nuts. Or nut, I guess. We cut to the Queen Mary as passengers wave from the deck with streamers in their hands. We see a man dressed in black moving against the stream of people coming off the boat. He's stopped by an employee of the cruise line, but explains that he's here looking for Inspector Roy Collins, working for the Duke and Duchess of Luchow. Because this is a VHS transfer that we're watching, we can only tell that it's Chevy Chase from his voice so far. Fortunately for him, the inspector is right here. Another suspicious gentleman tries to follow Chevy and the inspector, but is stopped again by the cruise employee. It sounds from their conversation like Chevy is here to relieve Inspector Collins as the Duke's private security. Collins is carrying the Duchess's dog Strudel, but hands it off to his replacement. Collins throws a shave and a haircut knock at the door to the royal suite and opens the door for Chevy to enter, but waits outside. Chevy is suddenly face to face with Duke Ferdinand of Luchow. He introduces himself as Secret Service Agent Bruce Thorpe. He shows a badge to the suspicious Duke. Once he's had a good look at it, the Duke removes a large fake beard, relieved. He introduces Thorpe to the Duchess. She asks if the dog he's carrying is his.
Oh, no, ma'am, I believe it's yours.
My strudel?
The suspicious guy who was turned away on the ramp to the boat is suddenly climbing a rope outside a porthole of the royal suite with a gun in his mouth.
I assume that this questioning of the dog is in a response to this dog already having been replaced
right
at this point in the movie.
But I think at this point, we think she's just crazy.
Right.
There's a loud knock at the door, and the Duke mistakes it for gunfire and dives to the floor. Strudel freaks out as well. Thorpe tries to assure the Duke that he will encounter no such violence on American soil. Thorpe instructs a ship employee to close the portholes and collect their bags for departure. When he closes a window on the spy's face, we hear the man scream and fall into the ocean. We cut to a palatial estate at the end of a dirt driveway as a couple are entering their mansion. Suddenly, the doorframe of the mansion is filled with an enormous human head, and we realize we're looking at a matte painting of a house, and the camera is filming people on a stage behind it. The enormous face asks how it looks, and the woman behind the camera is blown away by the effect. We will learn that she is Annie Clark, being played by Carrie Fisher here.
It's amazing. It looks just like the sketches.
As we zoom out of the matte painting, we see that it's being held up at probably a 10-degree angle on two C-stands, which I don't think is how you would mount a matte painting per se. Maybe in the 30s. Oh, never mind. I just looked into it, and these collapsible C-stands didn't exist in the 30s. Bizarrely, the enormous human head, who it turns out is just a person named Louis, or Louis, suggests that the matte painting cost $5,000, but probably saved him $100. So is the joke that the building would have cost $4,900 to make, or is he saying that the building only would have cost $100 to make? I don't even get the joke.
I don't get.
No, I assumed if he had to build what was painted there, it would have cost him $100,000.
Oh, $100,000. Okay. See, he says this cost me $5,000, but it saved me $100. And I thought the joke was I paid $5,000 for this painting when I could have built a backdrop for $100.
Oh, maybe I just filled the word thousand in my head then, because that's what I assumed.
That makes the most sense of all the options.
Okay.
It still seems really expensive for a matte painting, $5,000, but who knows?
$5,000? I had no idea it'd be so much. I won't pay it.
They walk through a tower with an armed gunman firing off the top of it for one of these backstage Hollywood scenes where every movie is filming at once in the same 100 square feet of the studio. Louis hands Annie a script and tells her he's making her special talent coordinator on this upcoming project.
The Wizard of Oz. But that's already been cast.
He elaborates that the production will for some reason require 150 extras flown in from all over the world, and it's her job to get them to set on schedule. The first train load arrives this weekend. As he tells her all this, they're walking down the yellow brick road toward an enormous backdrop of the Emerald City. In exchange for this work, he promises her a raise, before adding that he also needs her to find a funny dog for the movie. He assigns her an assistant in the form of his nephew, Homer, who is currently wearing the wizard's green top hat, which he seems to have put on out of boredom. Homer offers her a dopey smile, and we cut to the exterior of the Culver Hotel.
It's funny because it's larger than
a normal-sized hat. No, it's not. Homer Hinkle calls the Culver Hotel receptionist, Miss Enright. As they chat, the hotel appears to be completely empty aside from the employees. Homer is making this reservation out of convenience since the hotel is directly across the street from the studio. It sounds from the receptionist side of the call like the studio has never done something like this before, but how is that at all possible?
Right.
Like, the hotel was there before the studio. I feel like that would factor into your decision to put the studio there in the first place, that there's this huge hotel across the street. Especially if they're shooting a war film right now on the lot, there's no way all these rooms aren't booked with actors.
Right. Unless it's just notoriously a bad hotel.
Yeah, maybe. She nonchalantly confirms his reservation for 150 rooms on Sunday night, which, by the way, is exactly how many rooms the Culver Hotel has. So that's every room in the hotel. Are all the extras wrapping in a single shoot day? Maybe you'd like to book an extra night just to be safe? After she hangs up, the hotel manager, Lester Hudson, walks by and announces he's heading to the managers' convention, and he's willing to take her along since it's so dead here. She takes the confirmation for the 150 rooms and wraps it around a piece of gum so she can leave town with Lester instead of dealing with so many customers. Outside, Lester puts his nephew Henry in charge of the Culver Hotel for the weekend, for seemingly the first time. The fact that Miss Enright threw this note away actually makes surprisingly little difference to the story, except that Lester won't be here when everything goes to shit, but I doubt he would have kept everything under control.
So one more thing I'd like you to understand, Henry. If anything goes wrong, if you have any problems at all, you'll be fired and disinherited.
Okay.
I mean, it plays into the fact that when they go to check in, he has no record of the reservation.
Right, but either way, they need a bunch of rooms. And there was going to be people that were coming into this lobby that weren't going to be able to get rooms.
Right, yeah.
So it's the same amount of people will need the same amount of rooms, and they won't be available.
Right, but I mean, I guess had the reservation gone through, Chevy Chase would not have been able to book his rooms.
Right, he would have been asking a favor of her rather than she asking a favor of him, I guess. Henry here is being played by Adam Arkin, son of Alan. We cut to the train full of extras headed to California. Turns out also aboard the train are Agent Thorpe and the Duke and Duchess. The Duke is still certain an assassin is around and sports a Groucho mustache and glasses combo. Thorpe takes a seat with Strudel in his lap, and the dog immediately pisses all over him. The Duchess leaves for the bar to give Thorpe privacy to change into a clean pair of pants. The Duke shares with Thorpe more of his suspicions about their fellow passengers, but assures the agent that he is prepared for emergencies and retrieves a gun from his pocket. Thorpe leans forward to collect the gun from him just as the train plunges into a dark tunnel. The gun goes off, and it's silent for a moment to let us think that anybody could be dead when the lights come back.
Sir, I believe you just shot the dog.
In the next shot, Thorpe and the Duke have bribed a train employee for access to the luggage car, or more specifically the animal car, where the Duke finds an almost identical dog in a cage. Did they bring this dog as a spare, or are they stealing someone's dog?
They're stealing.
I think they're stealing somebody's dog.
I think so too.
Don't feel bad about Strudel the 13th, because here is Strudel the 14th.
So when the Duchess didn't recognize her dog earlier, it wasn't dementia or anything. It's because her dog keeps changing shape and ages.
Well,
and breeds.
At some point, and I can't recall, I think it's when they're doing the handoff, the previous agent says that this guy is wearing, disguises all the time. And then he's like, oh, and also the Duchess is like just totally blind and won't wear her glasses.
Oh, okay. I missed that line. The Duke lists off some causes of death for the previous 12 strudels. It sounds like most of them were attributable to human error.
Oh, and one suicide.
Suicide?
Yes, it was very sad. But most important of all is that the Duchess never finds out.
Somehow he has kept this ruse going for 24 years. As they leave the car, a mailbag on wheels slides a short distance across the room, and the Duke is terrified and punches the mailbag, and then a large coffin on his way out of the room. When Thorpe closes the door, Rollo cuts his way out of the mailbag. So there actually was a person in there that he was punching.
Which is kind of funny.
Yeah. I wanted, after Rollo left, for the assassin to lean up out of the coffin.
I was waiting for something like that.
But that's not what happens. We cut to Union Station in downtown LA as the train arrives. Annie exits a cab and heads inside. Do you guys recall the last time we saw the interior of Union Station, I think?
Oh, yeah.
On the Right Track?
No.
No, was it Die Laughing?
I don't remember.
Oh, was it with the prostitute and the killer in Blowout?
No, that's Philadelphia.
That's Philadelphia.
And On the Right Track was in New York.
Why did I feel like in Die Laughing they were in a train station during one of the scenes?
I don't remember a train station specifically. I'm trying to think of a good hint. It was a little girl.
Miss Marker?
No. That was also East Coast. She was running away from home.
And it wasn't Little Miss Marker.
Because no, she wasn't running away from home. Her dad was dead.
Yeah. Okay. Touche.
This wasn't an orphan, but she felt orphaned, and her parents didn't believe her.
I don't remember.
Oh God, Book 2.
Oh.
I've just cleared that one out of my memory.
Yeah, well, God finds her at the train station and then drives her home in a motorcycle with a sidecar. Moving through the station, Annie crashes into Thorpe, and he apologizes. Annie starts greeting the crowds of little people coming off the train and pointing them to transportation outside. She spots Rollo running from the Union Station security and, mistaking him for one of her extras, chases him for a moment until she trips over Strudel's leash for a second encounter with Thorpe. He helps her up again.
Are you hurt?
No, you're over too.
I wanted him to say, Annie, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay, Annie? Annie, are you okay? Won't you tell us that you're okay?
That joke wouldn't have made sense yet, though.
She said her name Annie before.
Yeah, but that song didn't exist yet.
Yes, it did.
It did?
No, for sure. She chases Rollo again as Thorpe calls after her because she's dropped something. It looks like a compact.
Oh, hey, wait. You dropped your, diaphragm.
She doesn't hear him. It's clearly an improv line. There's no way that it said that in the script. I guarantee you Chevy came up with that. Station security chases Rollo out onto the street, but he quickly encounters a crowd of little persons outside, and they invite him to hide amongst them. One woman even suggests they kiss while the guard runs by, and Rollo takes her up on the offer. When the coast is clear, the little person extras tell Rollo that he should come with them.
Where are we going?
We're off to see the wizard.
Okay, I'll get my stuff.
There's 4 cabs at the curb reserved for the little people, but as a Secret Service agent, Thorpe is somehow able to commandeer half of them for the Duke and Duchess.
But 4 would never have been enough anyways.
No, for sure.
150
yeah, these aren't
people.
clown cars, Annie. What are you doing? Outside the hotel, interim manager Henry Hudson is directing the hanging of a big banner renaming the establishment Hotel Rainbow. Another employee, Tiny, played by Pat McCormick, warns Henry that his uncle will not like this. Just then, a bus driving past the hotel loses a tire and skids up over the curb before coming to a stop. It's overloaded with Japanese men in Charlie Chan costumes, and a banner on the side of the bus cleverly reads Japanese Amateur Photography Society, with each first letter in bright red to highlight the slur acronym. Do you guys recall the last time we saw a bus full of Japanese people crash?
Yes.
When was that?
Crap. It just happened. We just had it.
Hint, they were Elvis impersonators.
Yeah, Gas.
Gas is correct.
This is a stupid aside, but whenever they showed the exterior of the hotel and we just saw the CH on the awning, it's shaped exactly like the college humor.
I thought that too, yeah.
Yes.
But I also think it's weird that you wouldn't hang the banner covering that.
Right.
Because it's like, why would you confuse people with like, wait, why does it say rainbow at the top? What does the CH stand for?
But like, why did he do the name change? Like, I feel like there was no...
I think he's trying to take initiative, and he thought that was something that would bring in more people.
Right, but he doesn't know that Rainbow has anything to do with the movie that's being filmed across the street right now. So it's just a coincidence.
It's likely to dissuade them from coming here with all the people who made reservations at the Culver Hotel, which is now labeled Hotel Rainbow.
Yeah. Nobody seems discouraged,
though. As the photographers come pouring out of the bus, they take pictures of everything. The bus driver, the tire in the road, each other tying their shoes. The leader of the group asks if he might procure some rooms, and Henry directs him into the lobby.
There's always room under the rainbow.
I feel like he came up with the slogan first, and then the name of the hotel. Moments later, Billy Barty's Nazi character, Otto, arrives at the same hotel and finds the lobby crowded with Japanese people. He shouts to them all.
The pearl is in the river!
Which is exactly the kind of conspicuous moment you would avoid by using a subtle passphrase. Outside the windows, we can see the little people arriving, and they quickly pile into the lobby, pushing Otto closer and closer to the front desk. Homer notices Otto's resistance and urges him forward, mistaking him for one of the extras. Tiny wakes a bellhop, who is surprised to find the hotel suddenly at full capacity. Tiny seems to suspect that he's hallucinating the crowd and collects a flask from a sock for a swig. While he takes his sip, a dwarf passes between his legs into the elevator behind him. Probably the smallest guy in this whole group.
Yeah.
Otto is shielding his face from all the photographers in the lobby when he meets a ventriloquist with a huge dummy. Or maybe a regular-sized dummy, but it looks huge because the ventriloquist is a little person. The dummy makes a joke about Otto.
Oh, you must be from Dusseldorf.
Otto punches the puppet and walks away.
It's a pretty good joke.
Yeah, it's not terrible. Yeah. It's not the worst joke in this movie, no. Which is a 7,000-way tie for the rest of them.
Oh.
Which are all equally great, but just barely less good than this one.
Yeah. I marked down all the sensible chuckles that I had.
Okay.
There are 2.
Another cab pulls up outside the hotel, and the actual Japanese spy, as played by Mako, asks the elderly bellhop, Pops, if a midget has arrived, and he confirms.
Which is a terrible method if you are trying to be inconspicuous, that you, during a war with your country, asks somebody if somebody else who's very conspicuous is there and you two are about to meet up.
Right.
Well, no one's at war with America yet.
No, but Japan's part of the war already.
Right, but not with America.
No, but America is already probably at this point putting people in internment camps and stuff, aren't they? Or
no,
not
I think
yet?
That was after Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor hadn't happened yet.
You're right. You're right. Fair enough.
That's what the purpose of this map is.
Yeah.
So really the map should change hands in the film.
Oh, like in reality?
Yeah, because they actually did have an idea where the defenses were to strike them. Otis, the other bellhop, leads the spy into the lobby.
Otis, the laziest named bellhop who operates the elevator.
I know, yeah. Mako's smile is wiped away when he sees the crowd of little people that he must sort through to find the German spy. Maybe start with the guy sporting a Hitler mustache, though. That'd save a lot of time. Next, Thorpe and the Duke and Duchess arrive. As they pass through the lobby to the front desk, the Duchess confuses the little people for children.
Oh, look at all the children. It must be recess.
I mean, this is another case of she's totally blind without her glasses.
Another busload of little people arrive, and looking down on all of them, Tiny jokes.
This looks like an aerial view of an unemployment line.
At first, I thought he said Aryan view.
Oh my gosh! Now that would be really the Billy Barty joke.
Because, I was like, "Oh, that's really dark." Hitler would probably want to eliminate all the little people too. That makes sense.
So they couldn't be employed.
Yeah, I went way too far with this joke in my mind before
You're
I realized he said
Ariel, just above, because Tiny his name is a joke on the fact that he's like 7 feet tall.
Well, I mean, but didn't we also bring that up though on the Willy Wonka review?
Oh,
that
there
they
was,
couldn't find any little person actors because they were all killed.
Yeah, which is weird to me that in this movie that Hitler would be employing one to do anything.
Right. Yeah, and surprisingly, none of the people in this film, in the credits that I found, were Oompa Loompas. At least not in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I think they were Oompa Loompas in Epic Movie, but I left that credit off of any that I mentioned because I felt like they would want me to. Annie comes in behind the last of the little people. At the front desk, we learn that Thorpe has reserved the entire top floor of the hotel. When Henry slaps the bell on his desk to call a bellhop, the Duke dives for cover, fearing some sort of bell-activated assassination plot. Again, the Duchess bumps into a little person and mistakes him for a child, rubbing his head. He reaches up and grabs her boob for sexy revenge as she leaves for the elevator.
There's some weird joke because she realizes that he's bald. Not totally bald.
She says his hair is going to grow in.
She's like, oh, when you grow up, your hair is going to grow up thick. And then, I think he realizes that she
doesn't know
doesn't understand that he's not a child. So he's like, I'm taking advantage of this.
Right. As Annie attempts to check in, she learns that no reservation has been kept for her party. Her assistant Homer and acting manager Henry make jokes about how such little people shouldn't need so many rooms. Annie tells them right away that short jokes aren't funny and it would be cool if we could stop making them, and yet the entire movie continues doing it for another hour and 15 minutes.
Yes.
As a last resort, Henry takes an action that I don't think any hotel manager would ever suggest, and he says, that guy just reserved the whole top floor. Go bother this other high-profile customer to convince him to give up some of his rooms.
Rather than the obviously logical state of just tell 3 of them per bed to lay the other direction.
That's what
You'll
you
be
do.
fine.
In reality, they didn't actually all fit in this hotel, so they booked rooms at the Adams Hotel across the street when they were making the film. But it's like, there's another hotel right over there. There's your answer. When she sees that it's the man that she kept bumping into at the train station, she's disappointed, but she attempts to schmooze him anyway, and it's not very effective, because I don't think it's up to him. The Duke wants a full floor because he wants it to be assassin-proof. Chevy improvises a joke as he steps away from her, and it doesn't really make sense.
The Duke's very tired from a long trip. Dog's name is Duke.
Well,
okay.
I think he was trying to cover it up because he shouldn't say that he's
a Duke.
A Duke.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that makes sense then. I'm colorblind, kid.
Honestly, it did feel improvised, but I felt like it was improvised in that I think he said it and realized the script was stupid for having written that.
Oh, okay.
And so he was covering it up.
It didn't even occur to me that he would try to keep it secret that the Duke is, because they refer to him as the Duke so often.
Yeah.
Don't insult the Duke.
What is that from?
From one of the running scares.
Yeah, I thought so. The leader of the photography group notices how upset Annie looks and suggests that maybe his party could share some rooms to assist her. He's very excited to learn that they're making a movie and assumes it must be a comedy because little people are inherently funny to him and everybody else who made this movie, apparently. When he asks what the story's about, she stupidly offers him her only copy of the screenplay to borrow. How is there not an NDA in place for this material? I know it's based on a book and there's a popular
It's also
musical
1938. Like,
yeah. He plans to...
But a script is different. I mean, the script could, for all we know, barely touch on the book.
Yeah, there's
Maybe its
changes.
own
Obviously,
thing.
the ruby slippers aren't ruby in the book. You know, there's changes all over the place. He plans to read the script between now and dinner and then return the favor and script simultaneously by buying her a meal. They introduce themselves as Annie and Akito, and we get one of these standard issue bowing back and forth moments as they part ways. Even though they never fleshed out any of the specifics of the room-sharing plan, Annie drags Homer to the front desk to announce that they have scrounged up enough rooms for all their actors. The hotel dining room is so busy tonight that the manager and hotel detective are operating as waiters. The Duke orders some Chateau Lafite Rothschild, and the manager gives away that he's never heard of it.
And will you be having wine with that, sir? But that is wine.
For reference, a bottle of Chateau Lafite Rothschild Vintage 2020 costs almost $700. Sharp tries to eat his food, but Strudel barks at him before he can take each bite. The dog is actually not super different looking from the one he voiced the previous year in Benji 3, aka Oh Heavenly Dog. He distracts the dog by pretending to point out the Hindenburg above them, and somehow it works. This film takes place only 1 year after the disaster, and might have been seen in poor taste by his distinguished guests. Outside, we see the assassin getting out of the back of a truck full of pigs. We also see outside that the Munchkin cast have hired escorts to join them for dinner. A waitress at a table asks if one of the little people would like crushed nuts for his dessert, and his friend urges him not to make the obvious joke.
Don't you dare. You like your tits shot?
And then he just grabs him by the face and knocks him backwards so he can't finish the joke. To show that he is evil, we see Otto sitting by himself, Daffy Duck laughing at today's obituaries.
That's such a weird joke. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't even, like, oh, people died. I don't know them.
I feel like that's in something else, too. Does Sender do that in
No.
The Stupids or something? There's something where somebody's laughing at obituaries, but I forget what it is.
I don't know about obituaries, but I just think of Jane Curtin laughing at the Bible in the hotel room in the Coneheads.
That's good. The assassin enters the dining hall and quickly spots the Duke and Duchess. To blend in with the crowd, he crosses the room, walking on his knees. Mako, as the Japanese spy, enters the room, and he is routinely introduced with a gong sound because he's Japanese and a bad guy in this film. He moves from table to table, blurting out, "The pearl is in the river," which, again, not how you're supposed to use a passphrase. At the same time, Akito and the Duke order glasses of white and red wine respectively. The assassin takes note of the drink order and pulls something out of his briefcase. He follows the manager across the dining room with a tablet in his hand, repeatedly attempting to plunk it into one of the two drinks. And by tablet, I don't mean an iPad. I mean a small pill.
Did anybody think you were putting an iPad in there?
That's what a tablet means now. When he finally gets close enough, he drops it in the white wine without looking. Duke gets his drink, and Akito gets the poison. It's very weird to me that the filmmakers didn't think this was so tremendously sad that they should find another way to finish this scene.
Yeah.
I was shocked at this. I was like, I thought we liked this character. He was funny. He was charming.
And we've established we can kill this dog as many times as we want, and it will always be funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just like, what? And
there's more of it later.
It doesn't end here.
Yeah.
I was just shocked. I was just like, but especially this one in which we've actually come to know this sweet man who's genuine, has a genuine connection with Annie. And I'm like, what are we doing?
But the weird thing is, I feel like the sensibility of this film, they would not have done this to one of the little person actors.
But the Japanese man is fine.
Yeah, they think of the Japanese characters in this film as like less than extras even. Because they're just bodies filling the scene.
That's crazy.
I mean, only one of them gets any lines and development as a person, and they fucking poisoned him right here in this scene. On the dance floor, Tiny is sweeping a little person actress off her feet, and their size differential reminds me of the guy in Being John Malkovich from the 7.5 floor orientation video.
Thy story has moved me like no other. Therefore, I shall make ye me wife. And I shall build a floor for ye between the 7th and the 8th in my own building. So at least there'll be one place on God's green earth where ye and your accursed kind can live in peace.
Oh, God.
Oh, God. Suddenly, the Duchess is having a panic attack because she's noticed in her compact mirror that she's missing a pearl from her necklace. From the next table over, Akito notices the pearl has landed in the middle of her plate on top of the liver they ordered for the dog. And we get the requisite switching of the R's and L's joke.
The pearl is in the river! The pearl is in the river!
Otto overhears this and repeats the passphrase. Behind him, the Japanese agent looks up at Otto. The assassin is now very confused because the Duke has taken several sips from his drink and is now approaching the dance floor for a waltz with his wife. Otto joins Akito at his table and asks him to verify that he said the pearl is in the river, and he does. Otto thinks he's talking to the spy, and Akito thinks he's talking to one of the Munchkin actors.
Well, at last, the plot can proceed.
Oh, the plot is excellent. With the help of your people, it should be very successful.
The American dog will be blown into the sky.
Toto, very ingenious. Follow your road, and you're a winner.
And of course, he makes a yellow joke about the yellow brick road because this was made in the 80s. When Akito turns away briefly, Otto slips the defense map into Akito's copy of the Wizard of Oz script.
What role will you play after this?
I have many roles.
You must have a good agent.
I am a good agent. Chicago.
He punctuates this last comment with a big Sig Hail, and I don't think there's any chance Akito didn't understand what that meant.
Yeah.
So he sits here with this confused face after Otto leaves. Annie finds Akito at his table and apologizes for breaking off their dinner plans because her work has gotten out of hand. When Otto crosses paths with the real spy, Mako leans back to whisper, "The pearl is in the river." The Duchess overhears him and says she already found it. Otto is very confused. Otto points out the fellow countryman who already accepted the map. Akito returns Annie's script and tells her he thinks it's great. After she leaves, he takes a big sip of his poisoned wine and then collapses at the table alone. The German and Japanese spies see this happen and assume Annie has taken him out. They decide to follow her out of the dining room. The Duke notices first that Akito is face down in his meal, and when Thorpe checks for a pulse, he tells the hotel detective to get the manager. Once Tiny learns that their guest has died, he tries to finish the man's wine, but Henry spills it on the floor where the dog laps it up. That's all that needed to happen.
Yeah.
Knock the drink on the floor, the dog drinks it, and dies. Okay, we know there's poison in the rum. As Thorpe and the Royals approach the elevator, we see Chevy holding a leash that suddenly goes taut, and we hear the sound of a dog corpse being dragged across the floor. I actually really liked this bit. Was that one of your sensible chuckles or no?
No.
Okay. I just liked the physical acting of that, where you can tell that there's some slack in the leash, and then suddenly it goes taut, and he's like, "Oh, whoops."
Oddly enough, this won't be the only Chevy Chase movie where a dog's being dragged on a leash.
Yeah. What was that?
Vacation.
Oh, I thought you were referring back to Oh Heavenly Dog.
No. In Vacation, when the cop pulls
behind
him
the
over,
car, yeah.
There's just the little dangled leash.
Yeah, that's James Keach, right? Is the cop?
I think so.
Yeah. One of the little people introduces Rollo to Annie, hoping to get him a job, and she seems excited to meet him. Tiny and Henry carry Akito's body in his chair across the dining room. Tiny suggests not calling the police until Henry's uncle returns.
Yeah, but he's not going to be back until tomorrow. What do we do with the body meantime? You leave that to me.
What could possibly be gained
from not reporting
this death?
Nothing. You've already out-earned the entire rest of the year. Your uncle's not going to be upset about this. I mean, he will be upset, but he'll also be rich. Even though everyone was just enjoying what looked like dinner, it seems like Annie is trying to convince all the little people across the street to begin their workday. Like, suddenly it's daytime outside and they're all moving across the street for a costume test. As the little people are corralled through the lobby toward the studio for makeup, the Japanese and German spies exchange ethnic slurs in anger over their situation. Homer picks up Otto, mistaking him for one of the actors, and walks away out of the hotel.
Yeah, I mean, this produced an audible gasp for me.
Yeah, I had to come in and check on you.
I was like, oh my God. It's so incredibly offensive, I think, to pick somebody up like that, to treat them as a child.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, this movie.
And even though they make her out to be the most reasonable and respectful person in the group, there's a couple moments where Carrie Fisher is talking to these people like they're children. Like, okay, don't forget to finish your drink, and then we got to go over for the makeup test. And it's like, don't.
But not as a joke or not as bad acting or anything.
It's literally just that's how a polite person would talk to a person this tall. That's it.
Yeah.
The Japanese spy thinks it's hilarious, though, that Otto has been carried out. Upstairs in the hotel, a line of little people engage the services of a prostitute who has taken up residence in one of the hotel rooms. In the elevator on their way back down to the room, the Duke realizes that the heart attack of Akito and strudel number 14 are likely related, and the assassins must be after him. Thorpe doesn't seem too concerned, even though the Duke is correct. Outside, the assassin watches the doors of the Culver Hotel from a manhole cover propped open with a switchblade. Tiny gives Thorpe directions to the nearest pet shop. The assassin cocks his gun and prepares to take a shot at the Duke, but when a man blows a horn outside the hotel, the Duke is spooked again and ducks to the floor. The assassin shoots over his head, killing another Japanese photographer, and Tiny seems to know what happened immediately.
Oh no, not another one.
Yeah, but this one's been shot.
Right. It's a
the other one was a heart
situation.
attack. And he knows this man's been shot because he mentions it later.
Yeah.
So,
and what he does makes no sense.
But it just baffles me that there's no reaction about why, how did you get shot?
Right. A pair of Munchkin socks walk by in the foreground and kick the switchblade out from under the manhole cover, which falls on the assassin's head, and we hear his muffled screams from underground. Now, for some reason, Tiny takes the second dead photographer into the hotel bar and orders a pair of drinks with him. I thought he understood this guy was dead, and maybe he does.
I think he does. I think he's like weekend at burning it. Like, oh no, he's drunk. It's fine.
You can go in and order a drink on your own, Tiny. You don't need to bring a corpse in here to order a drink. When a little person walking across the bar points out that there's a bullet hole in the man's chest, Tiny steals some ABC gum out of the mouth of a cigarette girl to plug the hole.
That gum can't help him.
Well, it certainly can't hurt him.
For some reason, no one is reacting appropriately to the obviously dead man, which everyone has acknowledged has a bullet hole in his chest.
Okay, it took me just now to realize what ABC gum was.
Yeah. It's branded from the station, ABC. We cut to the hotel bathroom as the German and Japanese spies enter. Otto is now sporting a Munchkin wig and outfit. It might even have been his striped socks that we saw kick the knife out from under the manhole cover. They make plans to break into Annie's room and collect the script. After they leave, we see that two little people were using the bathroom stalls, and even though they checked for feet, they didn't see any because the feet weren't hanging low enough. That's the joke.
Is that the joke?
I thought for some reason, unexplained, that they're standing on the seats, but the joke is that their legs aren't long enough.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't get that because I was like, why are they implying that little people poop with their feet on the seats?
You didn't know that?
I mean, that's how I do it.
Richard's fairly small now.
I just like to be comfortable.
Just just like to hug my own legs while I poop.
Rollo, did you hear that?
Sounds like somebody's after the script.
Better tell Miss Clark.
As the spies pick the lock to Annie's room, another little person announces a huge party in the lobby and people start clearing out. Thorpe and the Duke return with a completely different breed of dog.
Bruce bought Strudel a new dog. A new ball. A new bowl. All right. Makes him feel like a new dog.
The Duchess is looking out over the city from their balcony, and the Duke joins her. Thorpe starts bouncing the dog's chew toy ball in the room. The spies are ransacking Annie's room, one floor down from the Duke's, and he can hear them and assumes the assassins are closing in. When Thorpe leaves to investigate, Strudel tries to escape the room, so Thorpe tosses the new ball to distract the dog, and of course, it goes soaring over the balcony, and the dog jumps after it, catching it before a long fall to the bottom floor of the hotel.
Good night, Liebchen. Good night, Strudel.
Luckily, only the Duke sees it. When Thorpe knocks on the door to Annie's room, the German and Japanese spies escape out the window. He finds the room ransacked and steps inside. Annie arrives moments later to find her door open and collects a vase from the floor to defend herself with. She tries to bash Thorpe over the head, and he notices just in time to spin around and throw her onto the bed. She screams for the police because she thinks he's an attacker. He puts a hand over her mouth to explain that he's a Secret Service agent, and he gets her to promise not to scream.
And I, suppose that's your gun, huh?
Oh, no, I wear a shoulder holster.
I get it.
I just sit here with a pause. Like, he doesn't go any further. She doesn't explain it, and a phone rings to interrupt the moment. I think it's someone calling from her job, but she says she can't speak because she has a Secret Service agent in her room. Outside, Otto is intrigued to learn that such an agent is staying at the same hotel. On the floor where the spies yanked out all the drawers of her dresser, Thorpe is fiddling with Annie's underwear. She tells Thorpe about the crazy day she's had, and he picks up on a specific detail about a German film company trying to steal her script. He asks to see it to make sense of it. Just as she hands it to Thorpe, the hotel manager bursts in to complain about the little person actors destroying his hotel. The spies creep along the narrow ledge toward another window to get into the building. We cut to the hotel kitchen, where about 40 of the actors are using pots and pans as percussion instruments. One of them slides another into what looks like an oven, and then closes it up and turns it on.
It's a dishwasher.
Oh, okay. We cut to another little person played by Jerry Marin, and he throws an onion like a baseball across the room when a batter hits it and it explodes. Jerry Marin, as I said at the beginning, was the head of the Lollipop Guild, one of the actual singing characters of the Lollipop Guild song in the original Wizard of Oz. The evil cowboy little person opens the, dishwasher and retrieves his friend, who looks burnt, or he's at least smoking. Maybe it's just steam.
It's steam coming off of him. He's moist.
Henry the manager and Annie enter the kitchen, and he gestures to the chaos. Henry flicks the lights on and off to get everyone's attention, and Annie tells the crowd to return to their rooms in the next 5 minutes or risk being fired. They all rush out of the kitchen. Henry turns the lights off before Annie has left. She notices the silhouette of a little person out on the fire escape through the window and moves to open it. At first, she thought it was Rollo, and when he turns to face her, she realizes it's Otto, which is weird because Otto is like half the height of Rollo.
But they're wearing the same outfit.
That's true, they are.
So it's I guess during the costume fitting, they're wearing like the same costume for the
That
for
makes
the film.
sense, yeah. Rollo and his girlfriend are sitting in a dumbwaiter listening to the exchange. Rollo hears Otto speaking and recognizes the voice from the bathroom as the person who plans on stealing her script. Rollo tells his girlfriend to ride the dumbwaiter up a few floors to notify Thorpe of what's happening down here. Otto asks Annie for the map multiple times before she gets annoyed with him. When she tries to walk away, he starts disrobing her with the blade of his sword. Eventually, he's cut her whole blouse off, and it falls to the floor.
It should probably be said that he has a sword inside his cane, which he uses all the time.
Right. Rollo shows up and challenges Otto to a round of fisticuffs, but Otto continues using his sword. Eventually, Rollo grabs his own sword, but Otto cuts it in half. I think it's a prop sword or a knife or something.
Yeah. And at this point, because the two of them are in full costume and they're the same costume, and there's like Otto is bald But at this point, he's got the wig on for the costume. They're both wearing like blonde wigs.
Yeah.
And I was expecting this to be, a mistaken identity scene. Somebody's going to come in and not know which one's which.
Right.
But then it just doesn't happen.
No, they just fight for a while. Rollo tries to defend himself with a honing rod, but Otto isn't impressed. He turns to slice a big piece of hanging meat as a demonstration, but his sword barely leaves a mark. So he uses the honing rod in Rollo's hand to sharpen his weapon, and then turns to slice the meat properly.
This was a sensible chuckle.
Yeah, that he's actually sharpening it and making it look like a sword fight. The sword fight continues for a while, and Rollo's form improves until he actually disarms Otto. The Japanese spy sneaks up behind Rollo and knocks him out with a pan. Do you guys recall the last time we saw someone get knocked out with a pan?
Raiders?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, okay.
While the spies argue over who was winning the sword fight, they realize Annie is escaping and chase her. She leaves her dress on some steps to imply she must have disappeared up them, but closes herself in a walk-in freezer to hide. She quickly realizes that she has locked herself inside it and starts looking for a tauntaun to cut open. Thorpe returns to the Duke's quarters with another dog, and the assassin watches him to learn the special knock. The assassin ducks into a closet to change into a hotel uniform when suddenly Rollo's girlfriend jumps out of the dumbwaiter and runs to tell Thorpe what she's seen in the downstairs kitchen. Annie shivers in the freezer when a silhouette opens the door and enters, gun drawn. When he starts talking, she realizes it's Thorpe, and she rushes for the door to keep it from closing again, but he mistakes the motion for a hug and blocks her way. Thorpe looks around for a light switch, and when the lights come on, they suddenly notice 2 dead people hanging in the freezer. So this is where Tiny put the bodies.
Yeah, he hung them on meat hooks.
He stabbed them again. Annie is particularly traumatized when she recognizes Mr. Akito, like her friend who she was just having dinner with a second ago. Thorpe was present when Akito died, but folds a pair of glasses in half to double up the lenses and inspect a bullet hole in the second body. He claims to have learned this trick from his father, also a Secret Service agent, who was killed recently on a mission in the Far East. He finally thinks to offer Annie his coat. After Thorpe hammers on the door for a bit, Annie invites him to share the coat for extra warmth. Annie tells him about how Otto kept asking for a map, and Thorpe shows her the one he found in the Wizard of Oz script.
What is it?
Looks like a damn good map of our mainland military defenses.
The score here has shades of the Jeopardy theme to it. Did you hear that?
Mm-mm. It would be warmer if we share.
Yeah, of course. Silly of me. Yeah.
Their attempts at warmth evolve into a makeout session. We cut to the door to the Duke's room as the assassin knocks the special knock at the door to deliver a meal in a hotel uniform. The assassin wastes no time in giving himself away, though.
For 25 years, I've waited for this day.
I thank you.
Oh. At last, I will avenge the honor of my father. You must die.
The Duke is terrified to come face to face with his greatest fear. The latest strudel, I think 16, is tugging at the assassin's pants as he approaches the Duke. Apparently, the assassin's father was supposed to kill the Duke and failed.
But why? Help! Kill me!
Like, in the middle of his sentence, he asks for help. The assassin claims that he is the last in his family line and has to save face. The Duke calls for his wife, needlessly endangering her. The Duke bolts out of the room, and the assassin assembles a gun to follow him. On the same floor, an elevator opens, and a group of little people exit and move through a crowd from the Photography Society. The Duke tries to join the elevator full of photographers, but there's no room, so he crosses the hall to another room. The assassin thinks he's in the elevator and fires what sounds like a Tommy gun into the elevator, killing all of the photographers.
What? What?
This is weird.
You just...
And then Tiny opens the elevator doors back up.
Right. So he's in there, but he's off to the side where the buttons are. So he didn't get hit, but everyone else in the elevator is dead.
Yeah.
And he leans out and he says,
I could have held the elevator, sir.
That's it.
What?
It's totally reality breaking in terms of the movie you've set up so far.
Yeah.
That this guy, the hotel detective, who now knows the cause of all of the deaths because he sees the guy holding the gun, is just like, hey, why'd you kill all these people? I could have just held the elevator door for you. Anyway, have a nice night, sir.
What?
Doesn't make any sense. In the lobby, a woman is mopping the floors when the Munchkins steal her rolling water bucket and start riding it around the room. The Duke hides in a closet.
But it's her favorite bucket.
That's what she says. How many of these do you have? Go get your second favorite. No, this is ridiculous. The Duke hides in a closet downstairs, and just as the assassin finds him, he is knocked out by the Japanese spy. Otto and the Japanese spy plan to take the Duke hostage to trade for the map in Thorpe's possession. By the way, the Japanese spy has a name in the credits, but I don't think they ever say it in the film, which is why I keep referring to him as the Japanese spy.
Right.
Rollo and his girlfriend arrive to release Annie and Thorpe from the freezer. Tiny rolls all the newly dead photographers from the elevator massacre into the freezer after they leave. We cut back to the lobby, and we get the...
Doesn't he make some sort of off-color joke there, too, about, like, having invested in meat hooks?
Yeah, or like there's not enough hooks for all these people or something like that.
Like, what? Don't do that.
No. We cut back to the lobby, and we get the picture painted by history of a hotel overflowing with little people who are literally swinging on the chandeliers and toilet papering the joint. Manager Henry sits unamused as the lights of a switchboard blink madly in front of him. Up in Annie's room, Thorpe is annoyed he can't call out of the hotel. Annie changes into some clothes and says she just needs to powder her nose and they can go, but before Thorpe can explain that he has her compact, the Duchess bursts in to tell them about the real assassin that chased her husband away. So we never come back to the compact.
Yeah.
This is the last moment we get of even referencing it. Thorpe leaves the Duchess with Annie, but she can't sit still and runs out of the room. Annie chases after her. A group of little actresses led by Zelda Rubinstein encounter Tiny and invite him to a party. He is reluctant to attend, but his flask is now empty, so they try tempting him.
Never party while I'm on duty.
But there's gonna be booze and women.
Well, I guess it is my duty to check this party out.
Zelda kind of sounds like Yeardley Smith a little bit here.
Yeah, I spotted her earlier in the film when they were all coming in through the front door, because I had seen in the trivia that this is her first film.
Right.
And I was always kind of looking for her, and I was like watching all the people come in. It's like, oh, there she is.
The hotel employee Otis is working now as an elevator operator, which I assume is where the character's name came from. Annie and the Duchess follow Strudel into a barber shop in the lobby, where they are quickly trapped by the same spies who have taken the Duke. Thorpe and Rollo move through the hotel's chaos looking for all the missing people. In another room, we see that the little women have Tiny all tied up. Henry tries desperately to convince his guests to behave. We see a pair of winged monkeys doing acrobatics from these swinging chandeliers.
Is it supposed to be like a Gulliver's Travels kind of thing that they did with Tiny? Like,
oh yeah, I guess.
I mean, he's like pinned to the floor with ropes tied over him.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Or like Willow, but that's later.
Yeah.
When Mad Mardigan is tied down by the fairies. Is it Mad Mardigan or Willow? Willow gets tied down.
It's Willow and his friend Migosh.
Who's in this, right? No, it's different warriors from Willow are in this.
Yeah.
Thorpe stumbles upon the hostages in the barber shop and quickly joins them as a hostage. Henry tries to coax the little people off of his chandelier until he is thrown onto one and stranded there. Otis catches a pair of little people stealing cable from an elevator shaft and steps into it before realizing that the car will plummet to the basement, which it quickly does.
Talking about the cable. The cable!
When he climbs out of the elevator shaft, Otis is now being played by a dwarf as though he were compressed by the fall. I think this is Tony Cox actually coming out of the elevator shaft.
Is it?
Yeah. Because none of the other dwarves are African American in the whole film, but he's credited in the movie.
Oh yeah, well then yeah.
Back in the barbershop, Otto is checking Annie for the map, doing an especially thorough job around her breasts until the Japanese agent stops him.
Watch it, Bob! Hey! No time for pygmy perversion!
Next, they search Thorpe. Otto tosses Strudel back into the lobby for plot reasons, and the Duchess doesn't appreciate it, so she kicks him in the butt. And then Otto slaps her leg, and she kicks him in the face. It's a really funny reaction that he has to it.
That was my other sensible chuckle, was like the reflex action of him hitting her below the knee, and so her leg just goes up and kicks him in the face.
But his reaction is perfect to that kick. The Japanese agent takes this opportunity to inform Thorpe that he is the one who killed Thorpe's father. Thorpe refuses to hand over the map until Otto threatens to torture Annie.
Oh, that map! I hid it in Strudel's locker.
The Japanese agent sends Otto to collect the dog he just threw out, but when Otto finds it, the dog runs away. Rollo is addressing the entire cast of Wizard of Oz to explain Thorpe's situation and that they need to keep a lookout for Otto. In the middle of his speech, Rollo's girlfriend spots Otto cornering the dog and points him out to the crowd.
That's the guy with the dog! He tried to kill me! Let's get him!
They chase Otto out of the scene just as Homer enters the hotel with 12 dogs on leashes. The manager is still stuck on a chandelier, looking like he's given up his will to live.
Is this where Miss Clark wants the dog auditions?
Sure, why not?
Okay. Come on.
Henry screams to Tiny for help, but he's still tied up in the other room. The little people chase Otto and Strudel back through the lobby and crash through the leashes of all Homer's dogs. Henry's uncle returns and is pissed about the rainbow banner immediately. In the doorway, he is stampeded by dogs, and then Otto, and then the rest of the cast, as they run directly across the street onto the lot of Culver City Studios.
I feel like there's a missing joke here about the dog.
Yes, for sure.
I don't understand why...
They don't wrap up the story.
Strudel is... like, he starts as a Toto-esque dog, or he ends as a Toto-esque dog, but like, and all of these other 12 dogs are as well. And I just don't understand. There's no joke there. Like, they didn't finish it.
I guarantee you they shot an end to that arc and then decided to cut it for some reason. The guard at the studio doesn't stop them.
You're a little early for work, aren't you?
That guy's a Nazi spy! Don't let him get out!
The assassin finally regains consciousness in the closet where the Japanese agent knocked him out. He rushes into the barbershop with his gun out, and the Japanese agent picks up his camera to shoot at the assassin, because we learned in a throwaway line earlier that this camera is actually a gun.
Well, doesn't he shoot the other guy with this, or did he use a real gun?
He used a real gun before, but then he points the camera at Thorpe, and he says, "Careful, this thing doesn't shoot pictures, if you know what I mean."
Oh, yeah.
But when the assassin sees it, he thinks he's just getting a free photograph, and he's excited.
Pice? Grazie.
The Japanese spy and assassin both shoot each other, and the Duke is relieved to see his assassin finally killed. One of the little people, Wedgie, rushes back through the lobby to inform Thorpe that they have the Nazi cornered on the lot, and everyone heads across the street. The entire chase blasts through a movie set, knocking a platform and camera crew into a pool and splashing an actress on a diving board. Otis tries briefly to retrieve the map from the dog, but gives up when the angry mob gets closer. He chases the dog into a dressing room and is distracted by a lot of half-dressed women. Soon, all the little people are rushing through the same room, yanking open shower curtains and stealing women's towels. One actor stays behind to torture the women.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, they're all screaming at him. Like, I thought the joke was going to be that he was going to hide in the fog that's at the lower level of this room, and that he was just going to spy on them, but they can all see him and they're screaming the whole time he's in there.
Yeah.
We cut to the set of Gone with the Wind, which famously shot the same year as Wizard of Oz at the same studio with the same director, Victor Fleming, at the helm. We see doubles of Fleming, Clark Gable, and Vivian Leigh on set. The set is overrun by all the participants in the chase scene, and Otto chases Strudel around under an actress's skirt. Clark Gable seems amused.
Hey, Victor! I think you should leave this scene in the picture.
Otto takes the dog's collar and books it for the exit. He steals a car, and Rollo hijacks a horse-drawn carriage from a Western set. Stunt cowboys fire blanks at the stolen carriage. I liked that detail that they're like, "Hey, you, stop!" and they're using their prop guns to get him to slow down. In the chaos, two horses are forced to crash hard into each other, and it looks pretty awful, but a playful bonk sound added to the audio softens the blow. The chase goes through a Western public hanging scene, and an actor's support is knocked out from under him, actually hanging the actor in the process. Annie and Thorpe find Strudel back on the Wizard of Oz set, but Thorpe says they don't need him because he lied and the dog doesn't have the map. He's got it. He holds it up to show her, and a big fan blows it out into the road. Just as he recollects it, Otto almost runs him over. Rollo's horses break loose from his carriage and leave it headed straight for the Emerald City backdrop. Thorpe has to dive tackle Annie out of its path, but Rollo crashes through the set and then suddenly wakes up back in the ramshackle building from the start of the film. Yay.
I thought for sure that this was some kind of gaslight, like that he woke up and is like, "Oh, what happened?" Is like, "Oh, you did this and that." It's like, I'm just kidding. You saved the day, Rollo. Like,
oh, okay.
Like, I thought for sure that that's what was going to happen.
We're not going to invalidate this whole film already in the middle of the climax. It turns out that when he fell after fixing the antenna, it kicked off this whole dream of a film we've been watching. Everyone around him are people from the story. Tiny, the Duke and Duchess, the theater manager, the assassin, Annie, Thorpe.
It's not Tiny, though. It's Timmy?
Yeah. One guy's name got changed slightly, but they're all slightly different people.
And you were there. And you were there. So they aren't the same people. They're not supposed to be the same.
Even Strudel's there, sort of.
And tonight I will bake you your favorite strudel.
I'm going to eat a dog? No, we're going to pet a dog. We're going to eat a dolphin. No, we're going to pet a dolphin.
Yeah, hey, we're gonna eat a dolphin.
Hey, Lenny, you're not gonna eat a dolphin, pal. You're gonna pet one.
Oh yeah, that's right. We're gonna pet one. We're gonna pet a dolphin.
That reminds me of the sketch I still need to make for the end of The Wizard of Oz, where she's like, and you were there, and you, and Auntie M's like, and was I there? And she's like, no, you weren't there. And he's like, but that mean old lady down the street was there, and the wizard was there that just came to town. Really? But I wasn't there? No. But basically everyone I've ever met, every person whose name I know in the whole universe was there except for you, Auntie M. You who took me in my time of need.
What I didn't like was that they're implying that this impact woke him up.
Right.
But he got hit in the head and knocked out with a frying pan earlier in the movie.
Yeah, but that didn't really happen. That was part of a dream.
Right. Oh, of course.
Yeah. Just because I die in a dream doesn't mean I'm really dead. This isn't the Matrix, Richard.
Well, luckily, also, 20 Japanese photographers are also not dead, so that's good.
Yeah.
I think maybe your point is that if he were knocked unconscious in his dream, that he should have noticed that he could still see his unconscious body and watch scenes he wasn't in.
Yeah.
That is strange. I never just drift into the third person in my real life. Oh, and here's where I point out that they never wrap up the story about Strudel 16 looking exactly like Toto, because they said they were looking for a dog for their movie. It's like, if you're going to cut out the end of that arc, then cut out all of the stuff that led into it.
It's too much of it.
I guess. But for the record, Toto was played by a dog named Terry, not Strudel, so it must have been one of the other ones that Homer was walking.
They named the terrier Terry.
They're not creative. This is the 30s.
That's why they're taking IPs and making movies out of them.
Yeah. Thorpe leads him outside for a surprise. A bus is here to collect actors to deliver to Hollywood. Homer Hinkle, it turns out, is the only person from the dream who is the same person in real life.
Hey, didn't you get that letter we wrote you?
No, I look in the post office every day.
He opens the back of his bus, and Rollo joins a large group of little person actors headed to the same movie set. Billy Barty walks up to introduce himself.
The name's Zemar. Al Zemar. Agent to the stars. Stick with me, son, and I'll take you to the top.
So when he told Akito that he's a good agent, he meant it.
Right.
Also, is his name a joke on Alzheimer's? Alzheimer?
Yeah, I don't know if that was
what
supposed
the
to be a
joke is.
reference to something.
Yeah. Annie and Thorpe say their goodbyes. Well, you always said no dream was too big, and no dreamer too small. Thorpe reminds him not to miss the wedding, presumably his to Annie. The manager reminds him as they pull away.
There's always room under the rainbow.
And we see a banner raised in place on the side of the building that reads Rainbow Mission, Culver, Kansas. Mako appears to take pictures of the departing bus. Thorpe and Annie stand aside to kiss, but a dog interrupts them. Thorpe throws a ball, and the dog chases it into the street, where he is quickly eclipsed by a car, and everyone pauses in terror, but then they hear the dog barking, so everything's okay. We watch the bus full of actors on the way to Hollywood under the credits, with a song sung by the little person actors about going to Hollywood.
We are the little folks, you know. We are here to steal the show. We think it's so follow us. Don't miss the boat, don't miss the bus. Follow your dreams and you'll go far. You might even be a star. We always knew you could be a big star in Hollywood.
The end. Thumbs down for me.
Yeah, it's really annoying.
It's too much. It's 4 stories squeezed into. It's a story about a hotel. It's a story about a spy. It's a story about a movie getting made, and it's a story about an assassin and a duke. It's too much.
Okay, I'm giving it a reluctant thumbs up.
Okay.
And I'm
actually glad that you are, because I don't think this is a 3 thumbs down movie.
No, it's
but it's
not.
a thumbs
And
up
that's
for
the
me.
thing. And honestly, my complaints about this movie are really all of just the offensiveness that is left in it. Because, and I realize that is it's a sign of the times in which it was made. So I'm giving it a slight pass on that, which is the only reason it's a reluctant thumbs up, because I think I wouldn't recommend this to most people, because I'm like, yeah, you probably don't want to watch a movie with all of this stuff in it still. But I actually enjoyed the intertwined stories and the sort
all
of
the mix 'em ups and
the ridiculousness of like, why is there a room full of Japanese men that are all wearing white suits, and why are there 100 little people also there, and the only 2 people that were supposed to meet were in a white suit and a little person where that would be a unique thing, and and then
they need to say the specific passphrase that other people are now saying.
Yeah, that other people are saying the same passphrase, and there's so much of that in this movie where it keeps coming around and just kind of
paying off,
checking back in on itself and something, and I'm like, it's a complicated movie to have written.
Yes, I agree with that.
And I thought that was amusing.
But there are just a couple strings, like we said, the dog, they don't finish the story there.
But I think that I think it's so complicated. There was more to it. There was probably other stuff that didn't make it, not just the dog thing. I think there was other stuff that got cut.
Yeah.
Well, I think that I agree with Patrick, one, that there are just too many plots, but I was hoping that the mix-em-up between the Japanese spy and the German spy was going to be longer played out, because it's resolved really, really early and very quickly.
Yeah.
I thought that there was going to be many more scenes of them trying to get alone with people who they thought were the real person.
Yeah.
And having these misunderstandings throughout the movie.
Yeah.
But that's over and done with, and then it takes away for me a little bit of the joke of the ticking clock is they have to figure this out.
Yeah.
But there's too many people to figure it out. When that's resolved, then having this building full of people isn't a joke anymore.
Right.
It's not funny. It's not useful. I mean, I guess that's why they eliminate all the Japanese tourists. It's like, let's just check that box off.
Yeah.
And
I don't need these guys
hey, it's
anymore.
a wrap on this elevator full of photographers, everybody. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
But I didn't care enough about the Duke Duchess plot.
Yeah, and it's really lazily put together. The bow at the end is so sloppy that it's just, oh, my dad tried to kill your dad, so I'm going to kill you because he didn't kill your dad. But that's not revenge, that your dad failed to kill my dad, so you're going to kill me. That's not what revenge means.
I think it would have been funnier had Chevy Chase also been looking for the spies and came to this hotel.
Right.
Yeah.
And was also like, oh, crap. And he has to work with Annie because it's one of these people isn't who we think they are.
Yeah.
And Rollo could help because he's not actually a part of this group.
Right.
He is an outsider. He's not or maybe they suspect Rollo because he's potentially
because he just showed up conveniently.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think there was so many opportunities that were missed.
Yeah.
And it just gets needlessly dark with men on meat hooks.
Yeah.
And Akito getting poisoned is so sad.
Yeah. He didn't do anything to anybody.
He was just super happy and nice, and he gave her all these rooms for people to stay in. It made me sad. But you're right that there's nothing that's screwed up or logically wrong about the plot. And for this many stories to not have a massive plot hole is impressive.
Yeah,
and for them to intersect in so many places.
the multiple points of intersection throughout the entire stories. I mean, I was amused by the stories.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, there's a few moments where people aren't great actors, but nobody's terrible.
I agree. Although I do think that Chevy had to step up and improvise a lot of his work because the script isn't great. And you can tell that the little person actors were not professional actors in a lot of places. But also it's shot kind of like a sitcom or like television more. There's not a lot of dynamic camera work where you're getting really interesting framing of things. It's just straight on shots of people's faces or wider shots of multiple people talking, and that's it. I feel like they could have done more.
I mean, it definitely could have been a much better movie.
It probably could have been shorter too, I think. That's not. Don't do that. That's not what I meant.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, yeah, it had more potential, and it's probably not something I ever really want to watch again, but I don't think it totally deserves a thumbs down.
What are we doing Letterboxd?
Yeah, you know what? I have it really on the cusp of those kinds of movies. I have it at 79 out of 101. It is below SOB and above The Four Seasons.
All right. Richard?
I actually have it higher. I have it at 64. Below The Monster Club, but above Going Ape.
I have it just below you, actually. I have it in 69th, which is just under The Sea Wolves, but above Graduation Day.
That's hilarious. I have it
that
the
we
lowest.
both ranked it higher than you.
Yeah, but also, Going Ape's hilarious. What's wrong with you?
Wait, you hated Going Ape more than you hated this?
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Oh my God, that was a great movie. That's one of the best movies ever made. It's on Blu-ray now, by the way. We talked about how the Tony Danza fan club was petitioning for that Blu-ray, and it actually exists now. So
There
if
you
anybody
go.
wants to go check it out.
I can't tell if you guys are joking or...
I'm
if
sure
you're
it's
serious.
Criterion.
I actually thought Going Ape was pretty funny.
No, I mean it's not funny or good, but I mean it is terrible, but it's a fun watch. But it made me sad to watch it, and it hurt physically. But it's good. Watch it. It's great. Our director here was Steve Rash, not to be confused with Steve Tash from Ghostbusters.
You can keep the $5. I've had it. I will, mister.
This was Rash's second directing gig after the Buddy Holly story starring Gary Busey. He later directs Can't Buy Me Love, Son-in-Law, Xenon Z3, the third film of the Xenon Girl of the 21st Century series, and then a couple late Bring It On sequels, like late enough in the series that I'm not even in the background. Story and writing came from Fred Bauer. This is his only writing credit, but he also produced the Buddy Holly story for Rash. Story writing credit for Pat Bradley. This was his only writing credit. Writer Pat McCormick plays Tiny in the film, and we'll come back to him later with more credits, but he was an actor in the film, and he wrote. Writer Harry Hurwitz, lots of writing and directing credits, but nothing I recognized. Writer Martin Smith, mostly writing, directing, and producing credits on war documentaries outside of this. Music came from Joe Renzetti. His first composer credit was on the Buddy Holly story. We've heard his work so far in Fatso and The Exterminator. Later this season, he's back with Dead and Buried, and later Vice Squad, Poltergeist 3, Child's Play, and Frankenhooker. And he has a soundtrack credit in Ghostbusters 4 because of its reuse of the Child's Play theme.
Yeah, I was looking him up, and I was like, Ghostbusters Afterlife, what?
Cinematographer Frank Stanley was a DP on Breezy, Magnum Force, Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, Corvette Summer, Holy Moses, and 10. Editor David E. Blewett edited the Buddy Holly story last year. In God We Trust, The Competition, which he won an Oscar, or got an Oscar nomination for. Smokey and the Bandit 3, DC Cab, Ghostbusters, Psycho 3, and Moonwalker, specifically the Smooth Criminal sequence, where everyone's tilting in the bar.
Speaking of Smooth Criminal.
What?
Mentioned it earlier.
Did I?
Annie, are you okay?
Oh, yeah. Chevy Chase was Bruce Thorpe. He described this as one of the worst movies he's ever made, which I think he's said about multiple films that we've covered so far.
And shows.
Yeah. Chevy Chase got his start on Saturday Night Live and left to pursue a film career and found early success with films like Foul Play and Caddyshack, and then continued failure with titles like Oh Heavenly Dog, Seems Like Old Times and This. Later this year, we'll see him in Modern Problems, and then he takes a break until his best work as Clark Griswold in the Vacation films and Irwin Fletch in the Fletch films. He also shows up in Spies Like Us, Three Amigos, Funny Farm, shit sequels Fletch 2 and Caddyshack 2. He's Nick Calloway in John Carpenter's Memoirs of an Invisible Man, and he's himself in Last Action Hero. One of his last great roles was as Dr. Farthing in Bob Saget's Dirty Work, starring Norm Macdonald. He found success as Pierce Hawthorne, racist, moist towelette tycoon on Community, but epic clashes with showrunner Dan Harmon forced his early departure from the series. Lately, he's had a string of roles as the best friend of a past-their-prime celebrity in films like The Last Movie with Burt Reynolds, The Last Laugh with Richard Dreyfuss, The Very Excellent Mr. Dundee with Paul Hogan. Chevy Chase met his future wife, Janie, who was working as a production assistant during the making of this film, and they are still married today. Carrie Fisher played Annie Clark. Fisher was a prolific ghostwriter, employed heavily in the 80s and 90s to fix scripts and punch up dialogue on most of your favorite films, but unfortunately the nature of that work is that it's largely nebulous and untracked outside the studio. She's Princess Leia. She's Jake's ex in Blues Brothers. She shows up later in The Man with One Red Shoe, Hannah and Her Sisters, Amazon Women on the Moon, The Burbs, When Harry Met Sally, Drop Dead Fred. She has a cameo in Hook. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm. Her and George Lucas.
Yeah. She's Dr. Evil's therapist in Austin Powers. She's a nun in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. She made a hilarious appearance as Rosemary Howard on 30 Rock.
You've come to kill me, haven't you?
It's the 90s. No, it's not. She had a recurring role on Family Guy, and she lost her lifelong struggle with drug addiction on December 27th of 2016 at the age of 60, and was followed less than 24 hours later by her mother, actress Debbie Reynolds. As a guest on Carson's Tonight Show, she also admitted this was one of the worst films of her career.
What's the worst picture?
The worst picture you're ever in.
Usually for me, it's when the experience of making it isn't so much fun. I didn't have that much fun making Under the Rainbow.
Yes.
Eve Arden played the Duchess. She was Principal McGee in Grease and Grease 2. She's Ida Corwin in Mildred Pierce, Maida Rutledge in Anatomy of a Murder, but she's probably best known as the titular Miss Brooks from 130 episodes of Our Miss Brooks in the 50s. Joseph Maher played the Duke. He was Sisk in the 78 Heaven Can Wait. He's Adams in Time After Time. Dr. Coulson in our first film, Just Tell Me What You Want. He's Phoebe Geyer in Those Lips, Those Eyes. Gridley in Going Ape. That's the guy who wants the apes to die, who works at the office that would get all the money. He reunites with Chevy Chase for Funny Farm. He's a White House decorator in Mars Attacks. Robert Donner played the assassin. He was Deputy Colin in The Vanishing Point. He's a preacher in High Plains Drifter. He played Exeter on Mork and Mindy, and he played 3 characters across 4 episodes of MacGyver. Vince, partner of Vincent Schiavelli in Soft Touch. Ben Wintergreen, the theater owner in Cleo Rocks, and Milt Bozer in both of the Western MacGyver episodes, Serenity and MacGyver's Women.
I was going to say, the other 2 were Penny Parker episodes.
Yep. Billy Barty played Otto Kriegling. He started as a child actor in Mickey Rooney's Mickey Maguire shorts of the 20s and 30s. He was a regular collaborator of Spike Jonze, with an S, not a Z, and of Sid and Marty Krofft. He was Abe in Day of the Locust. He's Little Man in Happy Hooker Goes to Washington, J.J. McEwen in Foul Play, and after this, he's in Legend, Masters of the Universe, Willow, and UHF as Noodles McIntyre.
Macintosh! At your service!
In 1957, he founded the Little People of America, which provides support to individuals with dwarfism and their families. Mako played Nakomuri, or the Japanese spy. He played Hubbert in Battle Creek Brawl last season. He was Enjiro in The Bushido Blade. Later this year, he's James Chan in An Eye for an Eye. He's the wizard/narrator in Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer. He's also the narrator of Dexter's Laboratory. He's Aku on Samurai Jack, and probably most famously, he's Uncle Iroh in Avatar The Last Airbender.
I was discussing this film with my father, and he was asking who he might know in this film. I says, well, I mean, it's got, Chevy Chase, Carrie Fisher. And I said, it's got Mako. And he's like, who? I said, Mako. It's like, he's Mako who? He's like, no, that's his
the full name. Yeah.
That's his name. It's one word. And he had a really hard time grasping that. I was like, no, his name is Mako.
It's like Cher.
It's like Cher. Who?
Cher
Madonna?
what?
Who? Mako was also the voice of Splinter in the 2007 animated TMNT movie that was better than it had any right to be. Yeah. I saw it in theaters and I was very impressed. Cork Hubbert played Rollo Sweet. He was the bellhop in Where the Buffalo Roam. He played Ta in Caveman. He was Brown Tom in Legend with Billy Barty, and he was Luther on The Charmings, which is that sitcom about fairy tale characters living in the valley. Pat McCormick was Tiny. He's a longtime comedy writer for shows like I've Got a Secret, The Danny Kaye Show, The Don Rickles Show, Get Smart, The Red Skelton Hour, and he actually has a screenplay credit on this. As an actor, we've seen him as Big Enos, father of Paul Williams' Little Enos, in the Smokey and the Bandit series. He was also himself in the Gong Show movie, a plumbing salesman in History of the World Part 1, and he's the ghost of Christmas Present in the TV special Within Scrooged.
Right. Yeah, he's playing himself.
Right.
playing the ghost of Christmas Present.
Adam Arkin is Henry Hudson. He's back later this year as a high school student, Tony, in Full Moon High.
Sorry.
And as
He looks like he
doesn't make any sense.
He looks like he was 40 in this movie.
Yeah. Well, wait till you see him in that. He's also Charlie and Choo Choo in the Philly Flash alongside his father, Alan Arkin, later this year. He was also Tony Parisio, one of the people on MacGyver's stress hike in MacGyver episode The Invisible Killer. My first thought for him is always a recurring character he played on The West Wing as the president's therapist. Richard Stahl played Lester Hudson, the manager of the hotel when his nephew's not around. He's a recording engineer in 5 Easy Pieces, probably one of the people making fun of Lois Smith for singing while she's playing. He was Meade in 9 to 5, and he played a pharmacist in All Night Long. Peter Isacksen played Homer. He was Willie, the second in command at the hotel from Earthbound, and he's Beaker in Surf 2. Jack Crucian played Louie from the movie lot that was looking through the matte painting. He's Papa Papadopoulos on Webster. He's Red Meyer in Freebie and the Bean. Bennett Ota played Akito. He was the Hawaiian chief of police in Charlie Chan and the Curse of the Dragon Queen earlier this season. He's Captain Ho in Missing in Action 2, The Beginning, and an herb shop clerk in The Golden Child. Gary Friedkin played Wedgie. He was MASH in Cool World. Michael Lee Goguen played Fitzgerald. He plays a uniformed dwarf in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, I think as a callback to Rollo's dwarf in Where the Buffalo Roam.
I think so, because they both play kind of
very similar bellhop characters. Yeah. And he's also Zanti in Critters. Louisa Moritz played the telephone operator. She was Myra in Death Race 2000, Rose in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Natalie Nussbaum in Happy Hooker Goes to Washington, Gloria in Up in Smoke, Margie in Loose Shoes, and we saw her last season as Sally in New Year's Evil. That's the one who's talking about all the programs she's been through, like transcendental meditation and stuff, and then he puts a bag over her head and strangles her and throws her in a dumpster. The end. We'll see her next year as Carmela in The Last American Virgin. John Pyle played Steward. I don't know who the steward was.
On the ship.
The ship.
Because the Duke and Duchess are on a
ship. Is it the guy who stops them as they're going up the ramp?
It's probably the guy who's closing the portholes.
Oh, okay, maybe. He plays Mr. Harriman in Sucker Punch, the Zack Snyder movie. Very recent credit, but he only had like 5 credits, and there's a couple at the beginning of the 80s and then a couple in the late 2000s. Theodore Lehman played Hitler. He was a scientist in the Andromeda Strain. He plays a bum in Seed of Innocence, which gets a minisode later this year. Patty Maloney played Rosie. She's Lois Adams in the Addams Family movie. Zelda Rubinstein played Iris. She's back next season in Poltergeist and 2 later sequels. She's also the organist in 16 Candles and Madame Serena in Teen Witch. Weirdly, whenever I think about Zelda, I think about a role that was planned for her that didn't work out. In 1995's Casper, there's a sequence where the family employs 3 exorcists to clear their house of ghosts. The first is Weekend Update regular Father Guido Sarducci, whose head is twisted around backwards, so he leaves. Next is Ray Stantz of the Ghostbusters, who is too intimidated by Casper and his friends.
Who are you gonna call? Someone else.
But the third part of this joke was supposed to be Zelda Rubinstein going into the house and then being ejected from the chimney, shouting, "Go into the light."
I want to bring up a credit of hers just because this movie is unbearable to watch, and I've seen it like 3 times.
Oh, what's that?
National Lampoon's Last Resort.
Oof.
It's like one of the last movies the Coreys did together.
It's a direct-to-video, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's just a mess.
Yeah, that's too bad. Bobby Porter played the ventriloquist. He was Cornelius in Battle for the Planet of the Apes. He's Minimax, the inspiration for Mini-Me in The Nude Bomb. He's the senator from Rhode Island in First Family. He played a clown in Going Ape, the Purple People Eater in Purple People Eater, and Andy the Robot on Quark. Ruth Brown played the cleaning woman. She's Motormouth Maybelle in Hairspray. Most of her credits are soundtrack credits because she is a celebrated singer-songwriter, granted a Lifetime Achievement Grammy in 2016. She's also the aunt of rapper Rakim. And she really deserves better than being in this movie, especially for the tiny scene that they gave her.
Yeah.
I'm glad that John Waters rectified that with an amazing role in Hairspray. Peter Woolley plays the studio lot director, which I think is the guy posing as Victor Fleming. He's a production designer on films like Blazing Saddles and High Anxiety, as well as the TV movie The Day After. Gary Wayne played studio lot actor, and that's obviously the Clark Gable character. He plays another Clark Gable in Malice in Wonderland 4 years later. Twink Kaplan played the cigarette girl. She played the 1940s Melina in Falling in Love Again last season. She was Marcia in Underground Aces. She's back as a bank customer later this season in something that I didn't write down. She's Rona in Look Who's Talking To and Miss Toby Geist in Clueless.
Yeah, the Look Who's Talking To credit is the one I recognized her from. I was like, I've seen her before, but not anywhere else.
Yeah, she's great.
You don't recognize her from Clueless?
I don't know.
The one that gets hooked up with...
She's the teacher. With Wallace Shawn.
Wallace Shawn,
yeah.
I must say that most of my Clueless is expunged from my memory.
Oh.
It's worth a rewatch, I would say. It's actually pretty good.
It's a good movie.
John F. Goff is the bartender. He was a Nazi guard in Ilsa She-Wolf of the SS. He's also Al Williams in The Fog, Ash in Alligator, and Uncle Bob in Tammy and the T-Rex. Beth Newfer played a prostitute, or the prostitute, I guess, that they're keeping in the room. She played Elephant Girl in Going Ape. Denise Cheshire played Flying Monkey. She was Sally Prescott, which I think is the main character of Graduation Day, or one of the main characters of Graduation Day. Somehow I missed this before, but she was also in the snowman suit in Jack Frost that Michael Keaton is talking through. So she's the person in the snowman costume.
So she's like a professional puppeteer?
I guess.
Or because Gorillas in the Mist.
Yeah.
Like Cocoon, Mighty Joe Young. Yeah, she's like a.
Yeah.
She's like the freaking what's his name? Gollum.
Yeah.
I'm blanking. Andy Serkis.
Vic Hunsberger played the other flying monkey. He was a traffic cop in Charlie Chan earlier this season. Leonard Barr played Pops. He's Shady Tree in Diamonds Are Forever and Burlesque House Comedian in The Sting.
He is an actual comedian.
Right, that's the next line. He's also a comedian outside of film, famous for his deadpan one-liners and also for being Dean Martin's uncle. This is his final film credit, and after his name at the end, it reads, "Goodbye, Leonard, we will miss you very much." So I guess he passed away before the film hit theaters. Little Pat Billen, or Bylan, or Balan, played Self, Hotel Rainbow Guest. He has a credit as Special E.T. Movement in E.T. There's multiple people with this credit, so I think there were people that were walking around in E.T. suits.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Cox plays Hotel Rainbow Guest, but I think this is actually supposed to be the Otis character after he's in the elevator that falls. He's Bad William in Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hype. He's a desk clerk in Smokey Bites the Dust. He's Midget Nut in Nice Dreams, which is one of the people at the asylum where Cheech and Chong wake up in Nice Dreams. He's credited as a midget in Penitentiary 2. He's a street vandal in Blade Runner, and he's credited as Hooter in Captain EO. He's a dink in Spaceballs. He's the preacher who marries Beetlejuice to Lydia.
Oh.
He's a Vonkin warrior in Willow. He's Station in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. He's an African-American leprechaun in Leprechaun 2. And he's Midget Man in Blank Man. But he's probably best known as the biological father of Jim Carrey's kids in Me, Myself, and Irene, or as Marcus the Elf to Billy Bob Thornton's Bad Santa. Louis DeJesus played Hotel Guest. He's Ralphus in Bloodsucking Freaks, and he's an Ewok. There's going to be a lot of Ewoks moving forward.
Yeah.
Phil Fondacario was an Ewok. He was a Munchkin on Shelley Duvall's Fairy Tale Theater. He was Malcolm Mallory and Torok the Troll in Troll. He's a drone in Invaders from Mars, Sir Nigel Pennyweight in Ghoulies 2, Greaser Greg in The Garbage Pail Kids, but I mostly recognize him as being another Vonkar warrior in Willow. I think he's the one making fun of Mad Mardigan in the cage.
Yeah.
Saul Fondacaro played Hotel Rainbow Guest. There's 100 and something people with that credit. Munchkin, 2 years later on Shelley Duvall's Fairy Tale Theater, and a drone in Invaders from Mars again. Daniel Frischman, another hotel guest, was Falcon in Lone Wolf McQuaid, Clarence in Lust in the Dust, and Alien Zombie in Night of the Creeps.
I wanted a quick touch back on the Invaders from Mars.
Yes.
Because I think I've shown you the guys behind the scenes.
You showed us just the bit about the quicksand swirling.
Okay, so there's these alien creatures, and Stan Winston was trying to figure out how to make these creatures move and walk unusually.
Yeah.
So they have two actors, one a full-sized stuntman with a little person stunt performer on their back upside down.
Weird.
And the full-sized stuntman would walk on all fours with back legs and then front hands on stilts.
Yeah.
and the little person was upside down on their back, making the mouth and other movements inside. They have there's behind the scenes photos of this rig that they had to build in order to have these two people inside the suit at the same time.
That reminds me of how Silent Running, I think it was, used double amputees that were walking on their hands to puppeteer the robots.
Yeah.
Because it was such an unnatural motion that you wouldn't recognize it as being puppeteered by people. Joe Geeb played Hotel Rainbow Guest. He was Misquamakas in The Manitou and Blob Operator in Weird Science. Does that mean when they turn Chet into a blob at the end?
Blob, yeah.
So it's one of the people operating that costume, because someone else has that credit too. Jerry Marin was a Hotel Rainbow Guest. He's a townsperson in The Terror of Tiny Town, the all-little person Western. He plays a child ape in the original Planet of the Apes. He's the Hamburglar in some McDonald's Land commercials. He's a bellman in Where the Buffalo Roam, and he's a dink in Spaceballs. Most importantly, he's a member of the Lollipop Guild in the 1939 The Wizard of Oz. He's one of the guys who actually sings.
We represent the Lollipop Guild, the Lollipop Guild, the Lollipop Guild, and in the name of the Lollipop Guild, we wish to welcome you to Munchkinland.
He later regretted appearing in this film, finding it in poor taste and not resembling the actual making of The Wizard of Oz in any way. He only just passed away in 2018 at the age of 98.
Wow. He must have been really young
Yeah, he was a kid. He was definitely
I could do the math.
Young child. John Edward Allen played Hotel Rainbow Guest. He was Billy T in The Eyes of Laura Mars and Kaiser in Blood Runner, and Kaiser in Blade Runner. Ray Armstrong played Hotel Rainbow Guest. He was an Ewok. Roger Arroyo played Hotel Rainbow Guest. He was Cousin It in a couple episodes of The Addams Family. He's a midget in Going Ape, presumably in the circus funeral at the start of the film. Lori Barty played Hotel Rainbow Guest. She is the daughter of Billy Barty.
Makes sense.
Patty Bell played Hotel Rainbow Guest. She was an Ewok. Bobby Bell played Hotel Rainbow Guest. He was an Ewok. He was Foul Phil in The Garbage Pail Kids. He's one of the Emperor Penguins in Batman Returns, and he's Bob in Cool World. Debbie Lee Carrington was Hotel Rainbow Guest. She was Ramba Ewok. She's a drone in Invaders from Mars. She's Additional Ducks in Howard the Duck. She's Idee in Captain EO. She's Little Bigfoot in Harry and the Hendersons, and Valerie Vomit in The Garbage Pail Kids. But I'd say she's most recognized as Thumbelina in Total Recall.
Oh, man, that's the best.
She's also one of the Emperor Penguins in Batman Returns. Michael Crispo played Hotel Rainbow Guest. He was Grimace in the McDonald's Land commercials. Jean D'Agostino played Hotel Rainbow Guest. He was an Ewok. Marcia DeRoss played Hotel Rainbow Guest. She was Kathleen in Tiptoes and Dr. Ludwig in True Blood. Debbie Dixon played Hotel Rainbow Guest. She was an Ewok. Ruth Duchini played Hotel Rainbow Guest. She was in the Munchkin Village in The Wizard of Oz also, so her and Jerry Marin both are coming back from the original film. Margarita Farrell played Hotel Rainbow Guest. She was a stand-in in The Hand, probably for Michael Caine's daughter, and she did special E.T. movement in E.T. She was also a stunt duck in Howard the Duck, and an Ewok, a Nelwyn villager in Willow, and another Emperor Penguin in Batman Returns. Michael Gilden plays Hotel Rainbow Guest. He's the Philip Morris page in Pulp Fiction. That's the guy dressed as the bellboy character at Jack Rabbit Slim's.
Okay.
Who says Page Philip Morris when he's walking away from them. Edwina Gleason plays Hotel Rainbow Guest. She was an Ewok. Lydia Green plays Hotel Rainbow Guest. She was an Ewok. Pam Griz plays Hotel Rainbow Guest. She was an Ewok in Return of the Jedi, and then Shodu, a specifically named Ewok in the TV movies. J.J. Jackson plays Hotel Rainbow Guest, Ewok. Karen Lay, Ewok. Nancy McLean, Hotel Rainbow Guest, Ewok and Special Movement for E.T. Carol Morris was an Ewok. Stacey Nichols was an Ewok. Chris Nunn was an Ewok. Brian Orenstein was an Ewok. Harold Parker Jr. was an Ewok. Vicky Petite plays a concert guest in Blues Brothers. She's also credited as Baby Bigfoot in Harry and the Hendersons, and she appeared as a contestant in 2 episodes of Deal or No Deal. Norma Pratt played Mrs. Haskell in The Toxic Avenger. Rob Purcell, Hotel Rainbow Guest, was Crack Ryder from The Man from Snowy River and its sequel. Jerry Riley played a Hotel Rainbow guest. He doubled for Ricky Schroeder in The Champ. Daniel Rogers played a Hotel Rainbow guest. He was an Ewok and a little druid around Tiny Stonehenge in This Is Spinal Tap. He's also the troll in Cat's Eye.
Oh, yeah.
You still got to see that one, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Matthew Roloff played Hotel Rainbow guest. He was the Ewok with crutches. Finally, an identifiable Ewok. He's also the father on TLC's reality series, Little People Big World, which he executive produces. Oh. Chris Romano plays Hotel Rainbow guest. He was an Ewok and another little druid. George Rizzuto played Hotel Rainbow guest. He played another Munchkin 2 years later on Shelley Duvall's Fairy Tale Theater. Susan Rizzuto played Hotel Rainbow guest. She's Messy Tessie in the Garbage Pail Kids movie. She played an alien on Married with Children. She was another Emperor Penguin in Batman Returns, and she has stunt credits on Leprechaun, likely doubling fellow Ewok Warwick Davis. You know what's weird is that I don't see Anthony Rizzuto in here. I'm assuming these Rizzutos are relatives of his, but he's not in this one for some reason. But we've had Anthony Rizzuto in other movies. He was in our Dracula vs. Frankenstein review. He's the ticket taker guy, and he's also in Willow. Charles Secor played Hotel Rainbow guest. He was General Kuzan on Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. Felix Silla, or Sia, played Hotel Rainbow guest. He was the regular Cousin It on the original Addams Family. He was also a child gorilla in the first Planet of the Apes. He's an Ewok and a Dink. Kevin Thompson played Hotel Rainbow guest. He was Bear in Blade Runner. He's an Ewok. He's another blob operator from Weird Science. He played Allie Gator in the Garbage Pail Kids. He's credited as Little Man in Always Sunny episode Charlie Catches a Leprechaun, which is a March 17th episode where they're having a party and Charlie's been drinking paint for the entire episode. And he thinks he's caught a leprechaun in the basement with his glue traps that he made from baking tins. But he actually caught a pickpocketer who's been stealing everybody's wallets and is a dwarf. And then they just leave him on the side of the road at the end of the day because they can't let him tell everyone what they did to him. But it's funny too because at the end of the episode they imply that he kind of is a leprechaun because they leave him on the side of the road and they drive away and Charlie's the only person looking out the back window, but he's been drinking paint all day.
Right.
And he sees the leprechaun just shoot up into the sky.
Oh shit, that leprechaun just flew up a rainbow!
Stop drinking paint, Charlie.
Kendra Wall played Hotel Rainbow guest. She was an Ewok. Butch Wilhelm was an Ewok. Robert Kim played a tourist. He was Detective Stephen Lim in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Rob Narita played a tourist. He was Joel Dung Po on Max Headroom. And the last tourist credit I have here is for someone named Peter Pan, who was a Chinese landlord in Death Wish 2. Those are all the credits I have for this one. Sorry, guys. Sorry, it couldn't be way more.
Well, I mean, it's just, it's literally a cast of hundreds.
Yeah.
And
everyone's credited.
Yeah, exactly. As it should be.
Yeah. I think that's everything we have for Under the Rainbow. If you guys have any thoughts you'd like to share, we are Vintage Video Pod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Letterboxd, where, as I've said before, you can find each of our full movie rankings for the year. We can also be found at vintagevideopodcast.com. We also have a Discord. You can join the 24/7 movie chat and share your thoughts on episodes past, present, and future at vintagevideopodcast.com/Discord. And if you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you'll join us next time when we'll be discussing Victory, aka Escape to Victory, which IMDb describes like so: as Allied POWs prepare for a soccer game against the German national team to be played in Nazi-occupied Paris, the French resistance and British officers are making plans for the team's escape. We leave you now with a trailer for Victory, aka Escape to Victory.
How long will it take?
Well, you must realize it's my busy time. Everybody wants to escape in the good weather.
In 1942, the Nazis thought they were sitting on top of the world, never suspecting that they could be toppled in one conflict, the most unusual battle of the war.
It has been decided that a German national team will play a combined team from the prisoners of war of the occupied territories.
That's crazy. Okay, I'm ready to sign up. Sign up, Hank.
And you ought to be exhibited in Paris like performing fleas?
What about me?
Get out of here. A stacked game. The Third Reich's finest against a ragged bunch of prisoners of war. The Germans thought they had it made.
They couldn't run about for 90 minutes. They'd be chucking their guts up.
Am I good or am I good?
What's your name?
You know my name.
What's your name?
I decided to join the team.
The American? No.
You use that bloody American style again here and you'll be barred.
Look, you play English, I play American.
Can you do it with your mouth shut? Hey, the mouth and the hands work together. It's a team.
This match is a propaganda stunt for the Germans. It's a wonderful opportunity for us. The Allied High Command called them crazy, and maybe they were.
We want you to contact the resistance for us and arrange the escape of the football team.
But I want to thank you all for your concern, but I'm really not planning on seeing Paris until after the war.
Well, I'm an orphan. I have no parents, no money, I'm not married. I don't even have a pet. And anything I might say in my sleep to the contrary can't be held against me.
We don't want to be shot as a spy, do we?
No. I don't want to be shot as anything.
Victory, starring Sylvester Stallone, Michael Caine, Max von Sydow, and introducing Pele.
How'd you like to play football against the Germans?
Why not?
Now is the time for heroes. Victory. You've never seen anything like it.
So, do you ever struggle thinking that you may have seen all of the good movies out there? Well, let me help you with that. I'm Wyndham Jennings, host of Celluloid Fever Dreams, and every week I take a deep dive into cinematic history, and I find the hidden gems, the overlooked and underappreciated films, the ones that got overshadowed by bigger releases, and I watch them, and then I tell you about them, share some interesting stories about their productions, and tell you where you've seen these people before and where you can find them again. And then I answer the most important question of all. Is it entertaining? So if you're on the lookout for something you hadn't seen before, join me every Thursday on Anchor, Apple, Google, Stitcher, and, well, a bunch of other podcast apps for Celluloid Fever Dreams. Who knows? That film that you haven't heard of just may turn out to be your new favorite. Celluloid Fever Dreams every Thursday. I'll save you a seat.